Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a good show for you tonight. Mr. Tim Pate and Jonathan Eder are standing by, ready to play music along with pictures of our garden. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We have a hemp news segment for you tonight as well, and some video clips we'll be playing. We'll be taking your phone calls in just a few minutes after we bring on our infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
All right. Cannabis advocates held a protest today on Friday, March 4th, outside the Seattle Times as the United States drug czar, Gil Kirlogowski, head of the White House's Office of National Drug Control Policy, met with the Seattle Times editorial board. The protesters, holding signs reading, "Get with the times and defund the drug czar," said they believe the drug czar was sent to change the editor's board's mind. Kirlogowski asked for the meeting with the editorial board soon after the Seattle Times called for the legalization of marijuana last week. In an interview with Cairo 7 television up there in Seattle and their anchor Chris Egert today, Kirlogowski denied the White House sent him to Seattle just to speak with the editorial board. He said he was in Seattle for a previously scheduled event. He said, quote, "I can be absolutely clear. The conspiracy theories continue to live, but frankly, that one is totally false," Kirlogowski said. Kirlogowski is the former Seattle police chief and now heads the White House's Office of National Drug Control Policy, or the ONDCP. He's required by law to oppose any efforts at the legalization of marijuana. Kirlogowski said, quote, "The president has been clear. The president opposes legalizing any drug, including marijuana. America has bigger things to worry about than the legalization of marijuana or the idea of federal or state governments making tax money from legalized cannabis. If the future of our country and the future of Washington state is based upon how much money you can raise on selling marijuana, I'd say that's a very sad case," end quote, Kirlogowski said. Nothing from Kirlogowski's staff indicated that this was a special trip to try to change the editorial board's mind, said Ray Blythen of the Seattle Times. Drug czar Kirlogowski also said, quote, "The forces in pop culture that make light of the dangers of marijuana use, that there are no consequences for drug use, even promoting drug use as medicine, are profoundly disservicing our youth." The drug czar claims that marijuana use is linked to mental illness and other health problems. He said, quote, "The marijuana today is much more toxic or more powerful." He said, quote, "We know that drug driving is a significant concern, and even right here in the state of Washington, people picking up their phone, asking for help with drug problems, it's about marijuana," end quote, Kirlogowski said. According to another former Seattle police chief, Norm Stamper, he said of Kirlogowski, quote, "I think that it's a twisted, distorted assessment of what's actually going on in drug policy reform." And that's from former Seattle Police Chief Norm Stamper. Stamper, who now works with Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, also called LEAP, told the Seattle Morning News show that research shows that there are medical uses for marijuana and that it's not as dangerous as other illegal drugs. Stamper said many police share his point of view, but most remain silent about it. Stamper said, quote, "The problem that we have is that most of them will whisper their support for legalization." Stamper said that Kirlogowski's position, quote, "He's being less than honest with us, but that's his job description," end quote. So that's the end of the story from Seattle today. It's pretty exciting, though. The Washington legislature, though, is considering a bill there to legalize the sale of marijuana through Washington's state liquor store system. From Helena, Montana, a majority of Montana citizens oppose an effort by the House lawmakers to repeal the state's 6-year-old medical marijuana law, according to a statewide poll published last week. According to the public policy polling survey of 2,212 Montanans, 63% of the respondents, quote, support allowing patients to have the freedom to use medical marijuana with the approval of their doctor. Only 20% of the respondents said the law should be repealed entirely. Of the respondents, 36% identified themselves as independent, 35% said they were Republican, and 29% said they were Democrats. In 2004, 62% of the Montana voters approved a ballot initiative exempting state-qualified patients from criminal arrest for their use of marijuana as medicine. On Monday, House lawmakers gave final approval to legislation, Montana House Bill 161, which would repeal the state's marijuana law. However, it looks like that bill is not going to pass in the state, the other chamber of the state Congress, so they're going to debate it further. From Hartford, Connecticut, newly elected Democratic Governor Dan Malloy last week reaffirmed his support for legislation that seeks to reduce minor marijuana possession to a non-criminal offense. Malloy endorsed reducing adult marijuana possession penalties from a criminal misdemeanor to an infraction punishable by a nominal fine, as it is here in Oregon and now in California. That's the end of our Hemp News segment tonight. We're going to jump over and talk to Mr. Tim Pate and Jonathan Eder. How are you gentlemen tonight?
Oh, we live in interesting times, don't we?
It is. Things keep happening, especially in our medical marijuana industry.
It's true. It is, and I'm glad to hear that at least one of the former police chiefs in Seattle is acting responsibly towards his views. I am, because Chief Stamper was really instrumental in helping us establish a good relationship with the police in Seattle at the Seattle Hemp Fest. And when he retired, he became one of our keynote speakers. And so I'm really thrilled to see him still active and still involved in LEAP and law enforcement against prohibition.
And taking national position.
Yes.
That is great.
Yes.
Especially given that the more recent police chief who succeeded Stamper, Kurwagowski, is now in charge of the National Office of Drug Control Policy.
There's an irony going on there. It certainly is. But
I liked Stamper's quote that lying was his job description.
I agree.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Very
pretty good.
You want to play some music?
Sure.
Oh, let's play some music.
Right.
Thank you, John.
Tim Pate and Jonathan Eater. So we are taking your phone calls tonight. If you have any questions for us, give us a call at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. And I understand we do have a call standing by. Welcome to our show, caller.
Hey, thank you so much for taking my call.
Our pleasure. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I thought about this, and people have asked me and so on too. I'm kind of an old fart, but I remember when I was young, in long days, many decades ago, the kind of dope we had was, well, medicinal use or whatever, was really not very strong. What are your suggestions about people who may not want elephant weed, but a milder form of marijuana to, what are your suggestions about just taking the super edge off it?
Well, use less. That's the first thing. You
Yeah.
only need maybe 1 or 2 puffs if it's really strong. But there are, when the market's open and you can just go in and get exactly what you want, it'll be a lot easier.
You're absolutely correct. I hadn't thought of that, and then they will serve everyone at that point. But you're right. I mean, great point.
Yeah, you just use less. I mean, that's one of the reasons, especially when it costs $300 an ounce. I just came from Arizona this morning, and they're selling it at $400 an ounce.
Oh my God!
And over in Michigan, where we have offices as well, it's going for as much as $500 an ounce.
Can
this is stuff that grows on trees,
Yeah, can you? Can you mix it with stuff as well to kind of titrate it?
Well, you can. I've tried mixing it a little bit with peppermint, which kind of gives you an awake feeling anyway. I vaporize primarily. Yeah. So blending it with peppermint gives it a nice little flavor compound, and you wouldn't get as big a dose, obviously, per inhalation.
No, this is a question that scratched at me.
But that's for vapor. I don't know how that would work with smoking.
No, who knows? But I mean, I like the idea by just reducing the dosage for that, and also in the open economy, you would not have the incredibly powerful stuff. Yeah,
well, that's the thing about the black market. It induces people to make it more and more powerful and to drive the price up. I mean, look at cocoa leaves. We don't have those. You see people selling purified cocaine. Yeah. There's opium, but there aren't very many opium addicts. Most of them are addicted to heroin or to some synthetic opiate or narcotic that's even more powerful than heroin.
Right. No, your points are. I never thought of that before. Excellent point.
So when marijuana is completely legal, people will be able to get exactly what they want. The market will be there to supply them. A lot of our patients don't want the high associated with marijuana at all. Yeah. And so we recommend they use the leaf instead of the flowers, and the leaf's a lot cheaper than the flowers as well.
Oh, it's interesting. Anyway, no, sir, I thank you so much. It has been a question plaguing me, and you've answered it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for your call.
Take care.
Good question.
Bye-bye.
If you have a question for us tonight, you can call us at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. I don't know. Someone, the Bud Fairy has been here and left it on our table. I mean, if I had a pillow, maybe it'd be under the pillow or something.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
There it is.
So how's your week been?
It's been an interesting week. A lot of contact with trying to establish our locations for some of the tours and shows that we've got coming up.
Yeah,
and so,
the Toots and the Maytall shows.
The Maytall show, and and in addition of John Trudell on that as well this week. And so we have some some things that we will be able to really announce here very, very soon. We want to make certain that we have all of our ducks lined up first. So it makes sense.
Okay. Well, again, if you have a question or comment for us tonight, give us a call at 503-288-4448. It's been an interesting week for me.
You've gone some traveling this week.
A little bit. I've been traveling the past few weeks.
And how was Phoenix?
Phoenix was good. I mean, it's nice and warm there. There's a lot of trepidation. Is the state law, the final administrative rules have not been promulgated and issued yet. They're still debating those. And then various city councils are creating their own rules. So there are a lot of people that have gone in and located and secured property for an attempt to get licenses as licensed dispensaries. But then the local city council will come up with a rule that they can't be within
Forbids them or
500
something.
feet of
Yeah.
a residential location or something. And so those guys are just out of luck. They
And losing money by doing
Yeah,
that, establishing
exactly.
it early before all of the ground rules are laid out.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So how soon are those ground rules going to be
about
laid
30
out then?
days. About 30 days is when they're going to start issuing applications and taking state permits.
Now the applications are for dispensaries?
For cards at first, for
Okay.
patients to
All
get
right.
their cards.
Okay.
But then there's going to be a process where they issue 125 dispensary licenses.
Okay.
And it looks like there might be 1,000 applicants for the 125
Oh, my.
licenses.
Well, that's,
so
so they're going to have some kind of lottery.
something.
or first come,
or
first serve.
examine them on the merits of each
Right.
proposal, I think, is what they're actually planning on doing.
That's a lot of
And
folks wanting
some,
to get into the
I know
party.
in some rural areas there are doctors opening up clinics with medical marijuana dispensaries inside. So, yeah, I read that in
Now,
Globe,
should we discuss
Arizona.
the ethics of that?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. I mean,
right.
there are these rules out there anyway. When it comes to medical marijuana from the federal government, there's a decision that protects doctors called the Conant decision.
Okay.
That says that doctors can't aid in dispensing cannabis, that they can recommend it. And as long as they don't aid in dispensing, then the DEA can't investigate them for violations of their license to
Okay.
dispense drugs. But if they aid in dispensing cannabis, then they would be open to investigation by the DEA. So
There you go.
that remains to be seen how that one's going to fall out yet.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it will, though, because as long as we keep putting pressure on them, they will have to make some decisions, one way or another.
Yeah. We have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Yes, hi. Thank you.
Howdy.
Can you be more clear and explain the difference of the leaf and the flower? And I had a chance to, I ate one leaf and the effects, the medicinal effects and the length of it versus smoking, for me, probably 2 puffs on a joint versus I ate one leaf and I felt after about 15, 20 minutes some nice medicinal effects, but I don't know the quantity. Maybe my next step was to eat 2 leaves versus does 2 puffs equal 2 leaves?
Well, the thing about it is it depends on your condition. There are a few different medicinal compounds in cannabis. The one that most of us think of is THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol, and that's the one responsible for the high associated with marijuana. But THC is a useful medicine for some conditions, such as nausea. It's an appetite stimulant. I always like to throw in that's bad for me. But it's also good for a number of psychological conditions like PTSD and anxiety and depression. However, there are other compounds that have more medicinal utility. The main one is cannabidiol, or CBD. Cannabidiol is found throughout the plant, where THC is found mainly in the flowers. So you can get a bigger dose of CBD with less THC, because there's very little THC in the leaves of the plant, the big fan leaves as opposed to the leaves closer to the flowers. So those big fan leaves have lots of CBD and some of the other medicinal compounds like cannabichromine, or CBC, cannabinol, CBN. And using CBD and CBN will block the receptors that THC would bind to cause the high. So they actually modulate the high associated with THC. So it's hard to say quantitatively what a puff of flowers is compared to a leaf. What we generally recommend, though, is that patients let their leaves dry out, and then they heat them up so that they strip off the carbon dioxide molecule. That's called decarboxylation. It makes medicinally active. Some people just call it activates the medicine. And then grind it up and put it into a double O size capsule. We found that that works for most patients most of the time. Some patients prefer it in a tincture. You can make a tincture out of the leaves or the flowers. You can use several agents as the solvent, such as alcohol or glycerin. And the glycerin has a sweeter flavor, where the alcohol has more of the alcohol stringent burning effect. So I hope that answered your question.
Well, you answered it absolutely wonderful, and thank you very much. But also, I mean, you told me something and helped me I never knew, is that the leaf, I did feel it better, and it was more medicinal. I felt better more so than when I smoked it, and I didn't know of this the CBD.
And when you ingest it, it lasts longer too. When you smoke cannabis, the duration is just 1 to 4 hours. Where you ingest it or take it orally, the duration is 6 to 8 hours.
Yes.
So you could eat something. What I recommend for patients who have multiple sclerosis, especially since it's been shown to slow the progression of MS and other neurodegenerative diseases, recommend that they eat cannabis 3 times a day, in the morning, middle of the day, into the night, to keep a constant level of CBD in their system, and that's going to slow the progression of MS and Alzheimer's, and has a number of beneficial effects. It's a neuromodulator that modulates the whole neurosystem and endocrine system.
Yeah, and somebody like me, you mentioned I'm a veteran, a wartime vet, and the mental aspects of it, the eating, all what you said is just absolutely really helped, and also eating out. The one little thing I noticed is it helped my intestinal, how would I say, my bowel. It just kind of,
Yeah, it's very useful for gastrointestinal issues. It is for people who have IBS or Crohn's disease or GERD. It provides great relief.
Well, thank you very much, sir, and thank you very much. It's been very helpful. And
my pleasure. Thanks for your call. You had a lot of good questions and points there. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
So give us a call if you have a question at 503-288-4448.
Now, do you have to heat it up? Because he was doing it raw, it sounded like there.
Well, I know some people talk about juicing the leaves, raw leaves, and I think that works for some people. I'm told, though, to activate the medicine, you have to heat it up. Yeah. But
and that's not very hot. What, 215?
No, about 200 degrees, 215 degrees for 10 to 20 minutes.
So
that's all it takes. That does it. You don't want to cook it at a very high temperature.
Right.
You
don't want to vaporize it, in other words. You just want to activate it.
We have a question from a studio audience member. Go ahead.
I believe there's recipes online that people can go to use their medicines, like you were describing.
There are a lot of recipes. I know in our clinic we give out a few recipes, but there are tons of recipes, and I have about 50 different marijuana cookbooks. I collect these books, and I have 400 different titles right now.
That's a lot.
And 50 of them are marijuana cookbooks, and about 20 hemp cookbooks. Not marijuana, but hemp.
Are they?
They go back to the 60s, with Alice B. Toklas's cookbook. But there are many others out there. We have another phone call. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi. I totally agree with what was just said. I find ingesting cannabis was really good. I think I had a license in Washington State. I'm in the present time trying to get one in Oregon, and I did buy it there. It was already cooked, and it was the best. It really helped me, and I weigh 94 pounds, and I have tumors in my endocrine system, and it really helped. But I'm no longer able to get a way to ingest it. I'm not really well enough to cook it myself. I need to buy it ready-made, and that'd be my question.
Well, I'll tell you, making capsules out of the leaf is very inexpensive. It's something that won't get you the high effect, but will get you a big dose of the CBD, which is the most useful medicine in cannabis.
One of the problems you face here is one of the problems that we face in the state of Oregon, and that's for people who are very sick and cannot supply themselves. There's no legal way for them to go out and purchase what they need. And so they have to either be at the will of a good provider or somebody, a kind friend who will give them stuff or find some club that has it available for them. But still, all that takes effort. I know.
I'm legally blind and I can't drive, and my only caregiver is like, she's real against drugs, and she's really nice. I'm glad I have her. She's capable, but she wouldn't be the kind of person that would help me be able to look for cannabis. I couldn't even bring it up. I have to hide it. She was real straight. Anyway, I really need, desperately, weighing 94 pounds and legally blind, I have no access. I really need some help so I could ingest it to the point that I'm at least functional. My stomach is really, it's hard to eat at 94 pounds. Sure. It really helps.
Well, I'll tell you what, we have this other number. I'm going to recommend you call and leave a message there. It's 503-235-4606. Leave a message there and describe your plight, and we'll see what we can do to help. I can't make a guarantee right off the moment, but just call our office number. That's 503-235-4606, the number that just popped up right there on your screen. And through the magic of our people in our control room and the character graphics operator.
I didn't catch that number.
It's right there on the screen, right there. Oh, yeah, okay, it's 503 235 4606.
4606. Thank you very much. I had muting on, and it was hiding the words there, and I'm like, I've been puffing. Anyway, thank you very much, sir.
I appreciate your call, and I wish you the best. Good luck.
I appreciate your program. I watch every week, and I'm glad you're on. Have a good night.
Thank you. You have a good evening, too. That is one of the biggest problems, the supply side, especially for indigent patients, because, like we were talking about, the incredible price of cannabis, given how cheap it should be. I mean, with lots of different inputs, the price should be much, much lower.
That brings a good topic. The OCTA 2012 is an opportunity for people to act on that problem.
We have a petition out there that if people are interested in getting involved in our movement to legalize marijuana, then you can give us a call as well at 503-235-4606, or go to our website, hemp.org. You can scroll down there and find out more about our efforts to legalize, and we'll be talking about that a little bit more in a few moments after this brief video clip. Enjoy. Here it is. Any minute now.
Here we have one of the classic strains of all time, Panama Red. This has been a favorite of mine for years. The first time I smoked this plant was in Costa Rica, and that was, some 30 years ago. It's a classic sativa. Look at the size of this leaf. The blades are huge. This is a classic indica or afghanica leaf, however you want to look at it. But notice it's very, very broad leaf and short. Both these plants are approximately the same age. And you can see how much more robust the indica plant is than the sativa. This is going to be probably your biggest indicator of what type of plant you have. The sativas have a much fluffier, lighter bud than the indicas. The sativa can often be 20 feet tall, 4 meters or more. That's a tall plant. They've got a huge root system, and they're much more drought tolerant than the indicas. The sativa takes longer to grow. The high is more of a soaring, never-ending high. The indica, the high with it, is more of a lethargic, heavy stone, a body stone, if you will. Indica is much more dense and strong, thicker and heavier. The indicas do not grow as tall. They're short, squat, and bushy. They can take more cold than the sativa, and overall, they're just a tougher plant. And what does the beginning grower need to grow? Indicas, in general, are easier to grow than sativas, but it just kind of depends on the variety. What I would suggest is to use a cross between an indica and a sativa and get one that's good for beginners, such as a Northern Lights cross. Okay, well, here we are in a flowering garden, and as you can see, plants have budded. Cannabis flowers when the days become shorter and plants are signaled that the annual life cycle is coming to an end. This occurs naturally outdoors in the autumn, but must be regulated indoors by the grower. Ideal female plants grow squat and bushy with branches close together on the stem and dense foliage on branches. In most commonly grown strains, the first signs of female flowers appear 1 to 3 weeks after inducing flowering with a 12-hour photoperiod. What that means is it's 12 hours of light and 12 hours of uninterrupted darkness every 24 hours. That induces flowering. The 12-hour photoperiod, or the 12-12 day-night cycle, is induced usually when the plants are approximately 1 foot tall. That would be about this tall right here, about 1 foot. This plant over here has just started to flower for about 10 days. And what you have is the beginnings of a flowering plant. The little white pistils are starting to show. Female flowers initially appear at the top of the terminal or uppermost bud and gradually develop on lower branches. Flowers have 2 small, 1/4 to 1/2 inch fuzzy white hairs called pistils that form a V. This set of pistils is attached at the base to an ovule. It's self-contained within a light green pod called the seed bract. The entire thing is called a calyx. Pistil-packed calyxes form dense clusters or buds along stems. Buds put on much of their harvest weight as they swell during the last 2 or 3 weeks of growth. When a female is flowering at its zenith, the pistils swell in size and also change in color, most often from white to amber and eventually reddish brown.
Well, welcome back. So that was Jorge Cervantes, a guest here on the show a couple months ago, and a clip from his Ultimate Grow Guide video. He's got lots of media out there, though. So,
well, he served on High Times as one of the editorial staff for many, many years.
He was their grow cultivator.
And so he has a lot of experience, and we rely on his experience.
Okay, we have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi, how you doing?
Very well. How are you?
Good. Hey, I have just as a comment. My sister and her husband live up in Seattle, and they were personal friends with the police chief up there.
Yeah.
The one who went on to be the drug czar.
Yeah. Oh,
and
really?
When he got that job, I'll tell you what they told me.
Kerwilgowski.
They said he was, to them personally, I don't know about as a cop, but to them personally,
yeah,
he was pro-marijuana.
Yeah.
And when all of a sudden he gets to Washington, he's against it. They must have told him to say that, to be this way, or you don't have a job.
That's what I believe I believe that. I do, because of my experience with him in the past.
Why would you take a job to lie about something,
I know.
though?
Yep.
I don't understand that.
Anyway, I kind of know you guys. So thank you very much.
You bet.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks
Bye,
for your
Chris.
call.
Hope that he can change his views someday, or at least
or maybe
profess
express
his
them
views.
honestly
Exactly.
if he really is against marijuana prohibition. But obviously,
well, if he's going to be the drug czar, he has to follow the party line. Well, that's what he's doing.
So.
He's following a line there that doesn't make sense, though.
Doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
If you have a question for us tonight, you can call that number on your screen. It's 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. I just want to say that we are going to dedicate tonight's show to someone we sent a message out in the past few shows, to our friend Bobby B. over in Portland, here in southeast Portland. He passed away last evening, and he was the originator of the Selwood Thunder strain of cannabis, and a bright and cheerful addition to our community, always at every event over the past over 10 years. So we're going to miss you, Bobby.
We are.
And we're going to dedicate this show to the memory of our friend Bobby B. And we have another phone call. Welcome to our show.
Hi.
Howdy.
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well.
Did you have a question for us tonight?
Yes, I did. I was wondering the legalization process of marijuana in Oregon.
Well, we have a petition drive. You know, there's a lot of different vying forces and schisms about how marijuana should be legally regulated. There are people who think we should just do dispensary law, even though that's lost twice at the ballot. And what I'm working on, and we're working on, is complete legalization of marijuana. We have a initiative, the Cannabis Tax Act, to completely legalize the sale of marijuana. It would allow adults to grow their own without a license. It would also allow the sale of all seeds and starts without a license as well. And they'd be, it would legalize industrial hemp without a license, and 2% of the profits from the sales of marijuana would be dedicated to restoring industrial hemp for biodiesel and fiber and food. So I believe that marijuana is mainly illegal because of its potential for industrial hemp. The whole marijuana drug issue is really a smokescreen. It's really about the centralization of economic and political control. That's the main reason marijuana was prohibited. And when we regulate the legal sale of marijuana and allow people to grow their own, industrial hemp will return to its rightful place and probably completely transform our economy as we move away from a petrochemical paradigm to one based on agricultural byproducts. And so that's what we're trying to do.
It is.
So if you want to find out more about that, you can go to our website. There's hemp.org that has information about the Oregon Cannabis Tax Act on there. Or you can go specifically to OCTA 2012. That's OCTA 2012.org. That's octa2012.org. And that'll redirect you to cannabistaxact.org. That's the actual site, the cannabistaxact.org. And we have a certified ballot title from the Attorney General now. I was the only person to file comments, and so I'm the only person actually who has standing to challenge the Attorney General and Secretary of State's ballot title to the state Supreme Court in the process that's used here in Oregon to challenge that. And I'm not going to do it, so we should see our petitions on the street sometime by the end of the month here in March. So we'll start gathering signatures, and we need 87,000 more good registered Oregon voters' signatures to turn in to qualify for a vote in November 2012 to completely end adult marijuana prohibition and restore industrial hemp and help medical marijuana patients. It'll put medical marijuana in pharmacies at growers at the farmer's cost. I expect that'll be on the order of between $5 and $20 an ounce.
So it means we'll probably have to shoot for, what, 130,000 signatures to make certain we get
about 130,000 would be good. We have a caller who's been standing by. Welcome to our show, caller.
Hello? Yes.
Howdy.
Yes.
Hi, I'm a Eugene grower, long-time Eugene grower. I'm working with somebody who's been growing for over 40 years down here. And basically, what would this proposed legislation do for us growers? Driving the price down to $30 an ounce is just going to put us out.
Well, you know, the fact of the matter is that there are a number of ways to make a living in a legal environment, and you don't want to be responsible for people going to jail and the destruction of families. And you know, basically marijuana prohibition really distorts our entire economy and forces us to use petrochemical alternatives to the agricultural products. So this will benefit our Mother Earth and future generations. So individual growers who depend on black market prices will have to figure out new ways to make a living.
Well, the thing is, the reason that we have to do sometimes, you know, we do a monthly fee thing down here for our patients, basically. And some of them pay, and the reason some of them pay is because some of them can't afford to. We
Sure,
do
I do that myself. I give away a lot of free cannabis. Everything I
so,
grow, I give away for free.
That's the thing I get more concerned about than anything else is big corporations coming in like Marlboro.
Well, that's one thing. Our initiative demands that all applicants for licenses to grow commercial marijuana will be, all the licenses will be equitably distributed among all the applicants. So anyone who wants to grow medical marijuana or marijuana for sales to adults will be able to do so. And I think it'll be akin to tobacco farming, where you know there are farmers who only grow 1 or 2 acres of tobacco because that's all their allotment allows. They make more money from that allotment than from cultivating a few hundred more acres of beans or corn or whatever it is. You know, I think the whole economy will benefit greatly, and we'll just will end the whole hypocrisy of prohibition, and that's the goal here.
Well, I agree with you.
The petrochemical companies also are going to be looking for new ways to make money, hopefully, too, when hemp seed oil replaces petroleum for biodiesel and gasoline.
Yeah, and I don't dispute you at all. Actually, I completely agree with you. I worry about getting put out of business. I enjoy doing what I do.
Sure.
Well,
there'll just be new ways to do it. That's the thing. If you're an expert on cannabis cultivation, you'll be able to get one of these licenses and supply, make products legally. You won't have to worry about getting arrested. Be able to do it publicly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, right now I always keep things completely legit anyway. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Well,
I want to thank you for your call.
It's good to talk to you. I just wanted to call from Eugene. The Green Cross is always a good place to go if anybody needs any resources for clones or anything down here.
Right on.
So, just wanted to mention that and to say thanks. I'm enjoying your guys' show very much, and
Great.
keep it up.
I'm glad you're watching down there.
Well, one of the problems with the last proposition that failed in California was there was many professional growers who felt the same way about your comment. They felt like it was going to infringe on their rights as growers, and so they didn't vote for it.
Well, I can say, as the person who designed this bill, that I specifically designed it so that people who want to grow marijuana commercially will be able to get a license to do so. And they'll be equitably distributed among all applicants. So that will make it impossible for any big corporation to take that over.
But it also won't affect an individual's right to have their medicine or
That's right. Anyone can be able to grow their own, and you'll be able to give it to a friend or to a patient. It's only when you start selling it that then you have to get a license and do it through the system that this regulatory model would impose. And we actually wrote it so that it complies with international treaties, so that it will be upheld in federal court. There are certain international treaties, namely the Single Convention Treaty on Narcotics, Drugs, and the United Nations Treaties on Psychotropic Substances, that govern the way controlled substances can be regulated. So we tried to write our proposed legislation in compliance with those international treaties, so it would stand a chance of being upheld in federal court, and it seems like it will be enjoined when passed, just like death with dignity was 12 or 15 years ago now. Then we hope to see this be upheld in court. We wrote it to withstand that sort of a challenge.
Well, I obtained my card through you guys, so I'm going to just keep on your mailing list and kind of, I'm going to, I guess I'll vote which way you guys, it sounds pretty good.
Yeah. It'll just end people won't be thrown in jails, families won't be torn apart, people won't be committing suicide because the police came and stole all their stuff,
Yeah, that hasn't been happening, fortunately, too
Not
much
as much,
down here.
but it still does happen.
Yeah, in California, I hear about it happening a lot.
Yeah, well, just nationwide. In Malaysia and in Indonesia, they hang you for 300 grams of marijuana, with just a fraction of what I can get off one plant. There was a married couple that were sentenced to death, and in Malaysia, when you're sentenced to death, you usually hang that day. And the lady on the stand said she'd promised her children she would come home and that they were not guilty. But the judge sentenced the three of them, the married couple and another gentleman, to death for about 350 grams of marijuana. So we've got to stop that sort of thing, and by ending marijuana prohibition here on a local level, we hope to send a message to the world that the United States is no longer behind marijuana prohibition.
Absolutely. Well, keep up the good work, guys.
Right, thank you. Thank you.
That's a scary proposition.
It's horrible. It's horrible. It's tragic to think about that. And there was another fellow who was a champion bicyclist for Malaysia, and the judge told him he had a number of appealable points when the judge found him guilty and sentenced him to death. Well, his appeal didn't go very far because they hung him that day.
Wow.
So
well, good an appeal would do you.
Yeah, exactly. If you have a question or comment for us tonight, give us a call at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. We'll be taking your call right up to the top of the hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just terrible. Obviously, it's a tragic circumstance.
Well, when you know that you don't have it out, and you probably the jury, which is probably just the judge, is stacked against you as well, and there's no appeal. There's no appeal time. Nothing.
No, the judge said they had appellate issues, but it's not going to do him much good now that he's dead.
Yeah, his lawyer can help, but that's it. Wow.
We have a question from a studio audience member we're going to take, and we're going to take a viewer phone call question. Go ahead, studio audience member.
Well, Paul, do you think that the Gulf oil crisis that happened would have happened if we had switched to hemp seed oil long ago?
Well, definitely not. I've often said for years that if that Exxon tanker had dumped back in the 80s, had dumped a load of hemp seed oil in Prince William Sound instead of a load of petroleum. If it had been hemp seed oil instead, the environment would have thrived and the wildlife would have had food, and it would have been beneficial to the surrounding biosphere. But obviously the petroleum poisoned it. And, they're still talking about the toxic effects of the Gulf oil spill last year. We have another caller on the line, though. Welcome to our show, caller.
How are you?
Doing pretty well. How are you tonight?
I'm doing pretty well. I was just calling in. I definitely agree with you on the legalization of everything and how it should be taxed. I just actually wanted to discuss the fact that I would have to say hemp actually saved my life.
Yeah? How so?
I actually had a rectum cancer. Had to have basically the most part of my rectum and my stomach removed. As you can imagine, at that point it was very hard for me to eat. So, I never really used too much. Actually, most of my family were farmers and stuff, actually going a couple generations back, but it wasn't a personal preference of mine to use. So when the rectum cancer came about, I had to find a way to be able to consume food, and my cousin kind of turned me on to it. I got to say, it was a blessing in disguise.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad to hear it's doing well by you and helping. It also has, antioxidant properties to help fight cancer. So
exactly.
It helps the whole gastrointestinal system.
Oh, yeah, I'll tell you what, it was a pain in the ass. You know what I'm saying?
You can say that for real.
All right.
Okay, you have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey,
you have a good one,
you got
too.
beautiful hair. Cut your hair.
Not tonight.
What's that? He thinks you need a haircut?
No, he said, you have beautiful hair. Cut your hair.
Oh.
I'm not going to do it.
Okay. Well, we've got a few minutes left here. If you have a question or call for us, you can call us at 503-288-4448. If you're out there and you need help with medical marijuana and you're not sure how to find a doctor, we have a physician referral service. We can refer you to doctors all across the United States. Just give us a call. Our local number is 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. That number that just popped up there on your screen. However, if you're outside the Portland area, you can call us toll free at 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. And we have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
How are you?
Real well. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. I've got a good question for you. I
Go
keep
for it.
hearing a lot of noise about different amounts of how many plants you can have. At first it was 6 in bud, and then I heard 15. Just how many do you?
Well, it depends on what state you're in. There are different rules under the medical marijuana law I think you're talking about. Here in Oregon, you can have 6 plants in flower and that aren't limited in their size, and you can have 18 plants that cannot be taller than a foot or wider than 1 foot. So that is per patient. So per patient, you can have a total of 24 plants. Only 6 of those plants, though, can be taller or wider than 1 foot, or in the flower stage. Now, if you go across the river to Washington State, it's mostly a river from here in Oregon, unless you're over in the eastern part of the state. But if you go over to Washington State, you can have 15 plants. And it doesn't matter whether they're in flower or bud, you're just limited to 15 plants in Washington State. So you could have all of them flowering, or none of them, or some split in between. However, Washington recommended the same amount that the Oregon legislature set back in 2005. So in both states, each patient can have 1.5 pounds or 24 ounces of medical marijuana on site that's usable.
Okay, my other question is for the people who are like on Social Security and are just barely making it by and all this, when it legalizes and stuff, how is a person that really can't afford to buy their medication get a hold of it?
That is the dilemma of the situation, is that the people who are out there selling it sell it at an incredibly high price. And the people who really need it, and they need much of it, an ounce or 2 or 3 or 4 or more a month, that could be prohibitive. I mean, obviously, if you need 2 ounces a month and it's cost $300 an ounce, that's an incredibly hefty bill, a $600 a month bill just to get that one medicine alone. So I personally am able to grow it and give it away for free. Not a lot of people can do that. That's where our Oregon Cannabis Tax Act would set it up so patients can get it through pharmacies at the farmer's cost. And it will also allow people to grow their own without a license. So that's one of the things we're working toward.
Well, that sounds great. My hat's off to you guys, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thanks for your call, your question.
I'd like to remind folks, or if you're in a band and you'd be interested in playing hemp stock, we do have a contest. And you want to go to the website, you can go to hempstock.org and look at there. It's right on the front page that you'll get in there, and you'll see that we have a contest on Facebook. So far we've got 33 bands, but it's not too late to enter. We will be running that contest until the end of May. And the winner will receive $1,000 and a chance to play on hemp stock. And I'm certain that there's a chance we'll pick some other bands from that contest as well to come and play. So get in now and have your friends all get on Facebook, take a look. What we do is we will choose the number of likes, and the one who has the most likes wins the show.
All right, we have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi.
Hey, how are you tonight?
All right. I just want to know, what's the difference between vaporizing and smoking it?
Well, vaporizing does not burn marijuana. It heats it up to below combustion temperatures. Typically, I vaporize at about 360 to 365 degrees. Burning doesn't happen till it reaches about 450 degrees. Now, when burning combustion takes place, there are a lot of byproducts of combustion. There's carbon, there's tar, there are a number of other substances. And actually, when burning takes place, when you talk about marijuana, then it destroys most of the medicine. According to recent studies, or about 6 or 7 years ago, study out of Cambridge University, smoking in a water pipe or bong will destroy 75% of the medicine in the burning process before you can inhale it. In a regular handheld pipe, it destroys about 60% of the medicine. And a cigarette or a joint destroys about 50% of the medicine. And that's before it can be inhaled. And so with a vaporizer, nothing is destroyed at all, and what's left over can still be consumed orally or ingested in food or in capsules for the medicinal effect that way. And so obviously you can't do that with the ashes. But when you inhale smoke, less than 10% of what you're inhaling is actually the medicine. When you inhale vapor, 100% of what you inhale is the medicine. According to the same study that used a volcano vaporizer out of Cambridge in England, in vapor, 96% of the medicine, the vapor is THC, 2% is CBD, and then there's 1% each of the terpenes or aromatic hydrocarbons. And so that's what's in vapor. When you smoke, less than 10% of what you're inhaling is that medicine.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I, as you can tell, strongly advocate the use of vaporizers. I had a bad cough after 30 years of smoking marijuana, and within a few weeks of using the vaporizer exclusively about 8 or 9 years ago, that cough went away, and it hasn't come back, and I'm happy about that. And I just enjoy it better. It tastes better. You know, now the flavor of burned marijuana doesn't taste good anymore. I used to consider myself a smoking connoisseur, but now I really can't tell the difference in the taste except from a vaporizer. But the flavor in a vaporizer is much better. That's my opinion. But I want to thank you folks for watching tonight. We're going to end with Mr. Tim Pate and Jonathan Eater. They're going to play some music, and you'll see some scenes from our THCF medicinal gardens. Thanks for watching. Tune in next week and help us restore hemp. Good night.
See you next week, folks.